Hello everybody, I'm Nick, and in this video I want to talk about my decision to transition from being a Windows user for basically all of my workflow when I'm not traveling into a Mac user. This is my new Mac, that's all you're going to be seeing moving forward in my videos, that's what I'll be using. I moved into a Mac studio and I will show the specs and everything else in a bit. But I want to give you the reasoning as to why I did it, and if you choose to do it as well for the right reasons, because you have to have a workflow that matches a Mac, then you should know what you're getting into, because there's some nice things and some bad things. We're going to keep it very, very simple. Now, this is my personal opinion and my personal experience. Understand that even though I write insane amounts of code, this is not the main thing I do. Primarily, I'm a creative. However, I would say there's code being written on this machine 60 hours a week, maybe, for my two products, my course platform, DomeTrain, and for my new video to blog platform, Blogsmith. Links in the description down below for both. So I just want to talk you through why I did it, and maybe if you're worried of making the transition yourself, maybe you want to get a MacBook, maybe you're going to get a Mac Mini, which is an amazing value for money, by the way, then I'm going to talk you through that. So, first things first, as a .NET developer, are you going to be missing something? Well, if you're doing Windows native UI like WPF, WinForms, that sort of thing, then sure. It's not something you can easily do. Maybe there's ways around it. Have a look into it, because it's not what I'm doing. However, nowadays, desktop development has shifted from native sort of Vue stuff to, well, first you have options like Avalonia or Uno, which are both great platforms to do this sort of thing, and they will work great on a Mac. And also, most applications nowadays are basically a WebView 2 or an Electron shell with a website in it. That's what a desktop app is nowadays, primarily. So, will you be missing something? Yes, if you're doing that sort of thing, you will. And there are ways around it. Don't worry, I'm going to talk about them. But if you are not doing that thing, then .NET on a Mac, well, is amazing. First, two IDs, VS Code and Rider. Rider is paid, VS Code is free. VS Code is fine. Of course, you have Cursor, Windsurf, and all the other ones, like the AI ones. But there is nothing you cannot do in Rider compared to what you would do on Windows in Rider or even Visual Studio. I would argue that even though it has degraded in the past year in terms of performance, Rider is still a great IDE to use for .NET developers, and it is for now still my preferred way of writing C# code. Now, will you miss anything? Not really. Like, everything works the same. That's the entire proposition of Rider. On Linux, on Mac, on Windows, you're going to have the exact same thing. In fact, when I transitioned, all of my options were automatically migrated and adjusted for Mac, and you can adjust key bindings to match Visual Studio if you want Visual Studio Code and so on, because Rider has this option. So I'm literally missing nothing. I have the exact same thing I had before. So when I build APIs, when I build any sort of application, Maui, Blazor, anything like this will work. Plus, Uno, Valonia, all that will work as well. Great. Now, if I need to do other things, for example, if I want to interact directly with Windows or directly with Linux, I am using Parallels, and I have VMs both for Windows, both for Kali Linux, which I'm using, and also for Ubuntu just in case. But my main two things are Windows 11 and Kali Linux. Don't ask Kali Linux why, it doesn't matter. So if I want to jump into Windows, for example, I just click that button and it's going to start the Windows VM, which is pretty beefy as well. If I go into the hardware allocated for this, then you would see here I'm giving it only 8 cores on processing and 32 gigabytes of RAM, but I can increase it all the way to 400 because this machine as well has 512 gigabytes of unified RAM. It's an M3 Ultra. I know it's expensive, and I'm going to put the specs here. It's expensive. In the UK, I paid for this 15,000 British pounds, including the Apple Care and everything around it. It's very expensive. Realize that my workstation is what makes me money, and it's gonna make that money very, very quickly. So it's not really an expense for me. You do not need this. I cannot stress this enough. A Mac Mini with an M4 Pro, or if you want to wait for the M5 Pro when that comes out, with at least 32 gigabytes of RAM, will be more than enough for every .NET developer. You'll be able to do anything, and it is so much value for money. Even the base M4 with a bit more RAM will work wonders for you. Now again, here you can do anything. Like there's nothing I cannot do in this Windows VM that I can do on my main machine, except for playing games, which by the way, I am also a gamer. I'm playing games, and I know many of you play games too. So let's address this. You see I have Steam here. Yes, I can run Steam through the VM, I can find my games, and I can play a game if I want to. So if I want to play Expedition 33, if I want to play Megabunk, if I want to play anything, like I can run this through this. However, it is not the best experience. So you sort of have two options here. Option number one is you download Steam locally on a Mac. As you can see, I have it here, and many games support it. For example, Baldur's Gate 3, one of my favorite games of all time. I can go ahead and install it, and it's going to run natively on Mac's GPU and Metal. If I have a game that is not supported, for example, I really like this game called Megabunk, don't ask me why, I have two options. I can either stream it from my Windows machine, which is there connected through an Ethernet cable through a switch, and it's pretty okay. However, if I want to play a game that is not supported on a Mac native and I don't want to stream it, I can use Crossover, which will use the actual executable of Windows, and I can go here, run Steam, and this will play the games again through a layer. But the performance is actually surprisingly good for most games, better than not being supported at all, or being done through VNC or done through streaming. So you have options. You can run many applications through Crossover. It's amazing. It's so worth it. So we're done with sort of the gaming angle, because I know many of you use that. The other thing about me and why I'm making the transition is my travel machines, my travel workstations have always been Macs. Since 2019, I had MacBook Pros. So what I have here is my M3 Pro 32GB MacBook Pro, and that's like the 13 or 14 inch. And then I have my 16-inch or 15, whatever it is, M3 Max 128 gigabytes with like 8 terabytes of SSD storage. These have both made their money many times, because I run workshops around the world. In fact, I'm running a workshop this year talking about vibe coding in production and agentic AI. I'm going to put a link in the description in case you want to check those out. But these have been amazing. And every time I've been traveling and working with these, they're so powerful that when I moved to Windows, it sort of felt bad moving back. Plus, I have a couple of other things. I have, what is this called? An iPad Pro with the M3 Pro chip, and a simple iPad Air, whatever this is. They're both primarily used as secondary screens, respectively, for each MacBook, because you can side load the second screen with Sidecar, and you can have seamless, like I can add this now on this machine as a secondary screen, and I can have it for my notes, so I can look down and then up and then at you, and I don't have to take space of any other screens. I have 4 screens with this Mac Studio as well, 2K screens, 240 Hz OLED screens. Now my Windows machine, for context, is a very high-end one. It has 64 gigabytes of RAM, which is the only thing that wasn't maxed out to 128. That's because I don't want to have 4 sticks of RAM for gaming performance issues. So 232 sticks of 6,000 hertz or megahertz, whatever it is, was fine. The motherboard is as high as it goes. The graphics card is 5090, and it has 36 terabytes of SSD Gen 5 storage. So pretty up there. This has 16 terabytes of SSD storage, more than I will ever need. Honestly, I shouldn't have paid for this, but I'm like, you might as well get it, because RAM and memory is getting so expensive. Who knows what the value of this might be in a year or 2 years when I decide to sell it for a new one. Plus, I am running a NAS on my local network with quite a lot of storage, 28 terabytes. But actually, it's double that, because it's in a RAID configuration for both performance and storage and redundancy, plus two M2 slots with, I think, 4 terabytes of memory each. So as you can tell, I'm far more than your typical user. It's more of a power user thing. Now, one of my reasons why I'm moving away and why I moved away is because Windows 11 is so misdirected and misguided, with the entire thing that takes screenshots as you go, but actually the screenshots are not really secure, but now they are, but they're trying to shove it down your throat. I'd never liked this idea, like they're going to enable it for everyone, but then give you the option to disable it. Like, what the hell? And basically everything's broken. The Finder is broken, the Explorer is broken, it doesn't work. If you go and press the Windows key and you type for something, sometimes you find it, sometimes you not. It's full of ads. What the hell? And you can read this blog for yourself to see like how many things are crashing and not working correctly. It's absolutely trash. And unless they fix it, which maybe they will, maybe they won't, but I don't have the patience or the capacity to be like, okay, let's just wait to see if Windows gets better. I don't know. I'm not hopeful. Mac has always worked for me. It has its problems. The native Finder is not great, which is why I'm using something called QSpace Pro, which is a way, way better Explorer. Yes, you can upgrade the Explorer on Windows as well, but it doesn't matter. Like, I don't want to use a product that is not battle tested. This is great. For those of you saying the developer of QSpace Pro is a Chinese developer and you're worried about that, I'm also running a tool that blocks external network access, so it can't actually send externally any packets. So sort of secured locally. Then you have, of course, the cloud application, which has things like Cowork, which can scan your entire machine and do things like organize my files, find this file, find this invoice, when did I send this message, and all that. It's honestly amazing. It deserves its own video, and this is not supported on Windows yet. Eventually it probably will, but it's not. I still have all of my Word. I still have my video editing tools. I still have basically everything I ever wanted. And honestly, I don't feel like currently I'm missing anything. The terminal is better. I'm using item 2 for that, but it is still, as you can see, like an amazing terminal. I have all my Porsche and everything. And remember, Mac is a Unix sort of native thing. It's not like WSL, which is a layer. So things are just way faster. The terminal itself is way faster. Performance is overall much better. So it just feels very nice to be in this space. Yeah, the way you install applications on Mac is a bit weird, and all the permissions that you have to grant, because it's very locked down by default, can be annoying. But I'd rather have a secure system that asks me about everything than a system that is not secure and just implicitly gives permissions to everything. But that's just me. Another very important thing is I'm playing a lot with LLMs, and yeah, the 5090 for LLMs is insane, but the models I can install now with so much RAM are just way, way bigger, and getting that amount of RAM through a Windows machine is prohibitive nowadays. It's just way, way too expensive. And by the way, the CPU on that machine is a 5950X3D or what. It's like the highest consumer you can get. So the things I can do with this and the training I want to do and the videos I want to do with this are just outweighing what I can do with the Windows machine by a lot. Also, network speeds, extremely fast. I'm on Wi-Fi. I have a 5 Gbps internet connection. You can see it's exceeding that. So really, really fast Ethernet. It has a 10 gigabit Ethernet capability, this machine. And this is on upload as well, so it's symmetric. And I don't know if you saw the pop-up, but I can also play WoW just fine. Performance is great, like 160 FPS. How much do you need? And everything's very responsive. And yeah, I mean, I'm not really missing anything. That's what I'm trying to say. And I'm showing different things. I'm showing both the gaming aspect as well as the productivity aspect, because I do both, and maybe you do both too, and you want to know about it. So those are everything. Of course, I have my video editing tools. I am an Apple Music user. I was Spotify, but because of the quality that Apple Music gives, I moved. And maybe another thing I should mention is Spotlight is not necessarily the best search you can have. Sometimes it's missing something. So I've installed something called Raycast, which is actually way, way better than using Spotlight. And I can have everything like whatever I search is going to search. It has AI integration, but who cares? That's turned off. So I've made this machine basically exactly how I want it. And I did delay this video because I want to make sure all of my concerns about it are addressed. There's nothing I do not have. Everything runs smoother, everything runs faster, everything is more secure, and I don't have to worry about Apple messing something up. Yes, they had Apple Intelligence basically suck, but turning it off is just a toggle. I can just go and say turn off Apple Intelligence and everything works fine. I don't have to worry about it popping up with Copilot buttons everywhere and be like, do you want to try Copilot? I have 3 buttons here. Like, there's none of that. And when eventually they fix it, they're going to use Gemini, Google's Gemini, which is insane. Everything in Dome Train and Blocksmith are powered by Gemini. Really, really cool AI models, really, really cool functionality. Very, very cost efficient as well. So what can I say? These are my reasonings. That's how I feel about it. Maybe I went in too many tangents showing you different things, but I don't want to show you just the programming stuff, because if you upgrade your main workstation, you don't want to have something that you only do your coding and then you go back and you do your normal life into a Windows machine. Plus, a few things I want to mention. I have an MX Keys Logitech keyboard, which has these buttons over here, which is basically, I can, with a click of a button, automatically connect to the Windows machine and the Mac machine. So if I want to put the Windows machine here, because I have an HDMI switch, which I can just swap them around, I can just press a button, readjust the mouse, and everything works. I have two mice, and the trackpad is awesome as well. So I have everything I need. I have more ports than I will never need. It's all the ports on the Mac Studio are Thunderbolt 5 as well, so you can have insane connectivity. I'm not missing anything. So moving forward, I want to have this video where everyone can go and understand why I am here, so they don't ask, why are you on a Mac, Nick? That's why I'm on a Mac, and life is good. But I want to know about you. Have you tried to work on a Mac? Do you have a MacBook Pro? Do you think that you should maybe move to a Mac Mini or a Mac Studio? Leave a comment down below and let me know. Well, that's all I had for you for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, keep coding.